All right, we have breaking news. House Democrats are set to announce articles of impeachment tomorrow morning, and the reports tonight are they're going to be at least two, maybe only two, abuse of power and obstruction of Congress. Now, that second one holds a distinction that we have to discuss, and we have the perfect guest, House Judiciary Member Jamie Raskin. Congressman, thank you for joining us tonight.
I'm delighted to be with you, Chris.
So we understand that there are discussions ongoing, that this reporting is accurate at this point, but there may be an expansion thereof. Is that your understanding, sir?
Yeah, I think there may have been a little bit of fake news in there before. I was not in a meeting with Speaker Pelosi.
I never said you were.
Meeting actually with the Judiciary Committee. Not you. Okay. I just wanted to be clear about that. But look, the Judiciary Committee was pleased with our proceedings today because the evidence that came out was just overwhelming and unrefuted and uncontradicted of the president's scheme to shake down the government of Ukraine. And our GOP colleagues wanted to talk about anything but the facts of the case. So they were, upset about how long we've been working on this or how fast it's going or this or that complaint. But they never laid a glove on the factual case or the legal case for impeachment. And
look,
I guess my major concern is that we have certain patterns of conduct that are identified as we move forward. One pattern of conduct is exploiting the public office for personal gain. A second is inviting in foreign powers and welcoming in foreign powers to interfere in our elections. And then the final pattern I'm interested in is the obstruction of Congress as it tries to move forward to investigate all of these things.
Okay,
so
forgive me for pushing, but I got to push.
Focus.
I got to push, Congressman, on two things. One, something you said, and one, something that isn't said in the reporting. First, what you said. A pattern of conduct. Pattern of conduct, as you just said, about whether it's self-enrichment or behavior vis-a-vis investigations, that dovetails into additional articles of impeachment that I think abuse of power here would have to be at some point articulated as bribery or extortion by you guys. I don't see the extortion, but that's up for you. The idea of bringing in the Mueller probe and the obstruction there. You say the reporting is obstruction of Congress, not obstruction of justice, which is what Mueller was talking about. Is Mueller going to be left out of this?
Well, I don't know the answer to that. And I mean,
it's coming out tomorrow?
Because I don't know. Well, I'm not quite sure exactly what's coming out tomorrow. It may just be a statement of what the schedule for the rest of the week is. I'm not quite sure exactly what's on the agenda there. But let me just refer back to the hearing that we had with the constitutional law scholars. This Ukraine episode embodies all three of these patterns of conduct. It is the elevation of the president's personal political agenda above the national security, above the Constitution. It is the enticement of foreign powers into corrupt our elections, and then a total scramble to obstruct any efforts to figure out what happened by blockading witnesses, withholding evidence, and preventing Congress from doing its job.
So let's see. If tomorrow they don't put out the articles of impeachment, you had a lot of people feeding a lot of us information that they shouldn't have. Now, does that speak to how much division is there?
Well, I don't think there's very much division at all. I mean, the devil's in the details always in terms of the draftsmanship of, what's finally reduced to paper.
But it's include Mueller or don't include Mueller. You got to make a choice.
Well, yeah, the word Mueller means different things to different people, right? There's a lot that's in the Mueller report. As Speaker Pelosi has herself said that all roads lead to Russia. And Russia's fingerprints are all over so much of what's in the Ukraine episode, as well as what's
Congressman. It's what Mueller seemed to suggest in his testimony and in his report he was leaving to you guys.
Yes, and I believe that this is a president who is engaged in a pattern of obstructing any investigation into his criminal misconduct and the corruption of his administration. In terms of, what specifically is cited, it really does come down to a question of drafting of the articles. And I'm not involved in the final stages of that process. Lots of us have tried to have input along the way, but we're waiting to see what comes back from the people who are doing the drafting.
Give me a quick yes/no on this, and then I want to ask you about today. The idea that the moderates are really worried about this, and they want to keep it very tight. Ukraine, what we have here, don't be expansive.
Well, obviously that there's always a diversity of views about, how expansive to go. And, to my mind, a lot of the issue is what do we have a sufficient quantum of evidence to go on right now, as opposed to continuing to conduct oversight in other areas. So undoubtedly, look, this president is a one-man crime wave, and we're not going to be able to get all of his crimes into the high crimes and misdemeanors that are identified for the purposes of these articles. I have not, I've been so caught up in what the Judiciary Committee itself is doing that I've not had the chance to canvass colleagues about where they are on different issues. I would say if I had to guess about where the center of gravity is in our caucus, it's that we should be as comprehensive as possible in describing the criminality and the corruption that pervades the Trump administration, at the same time that we are very precise and focused in the identification of particular criminal acts in the articles themselves.
The division on display in one set of sound bites from today. Here it is.
We will now hear presentations of evidence.
Mr. Chairman,
Gentleman is not recognized. We will now hear presentations of evidence.
I have a parliamentary inquiry.
I haven't removed my objection yet.
Is this when we just hear staff ask questions of other staff and the members get dealt out of this whole hearing? And for the next 4 hours, you're going to try to overturn the result of an election with unelected people giving testimony?
Gentlemen will suspend.
Ugly early. What is the state of play?
Well, there are obviously two different narratives out there. Ours is based on a 300-page report that is chock full with facts of witnesses who went under oath and actually testified as to the president's shakedown of President Zelensky. And it is filled with factual detail documenting every phase of this scheme. On the other side, you've got President Trump and the people he's ordered not to testify, like Secretary Pompeo and Secretary Perry and so on. And they're basically, throwing stones from the side saying this is a hoax and this is BS and this is a fraud and so on. Come under oath, take the oath like all of these witnesses did, people who worked for President Trump, and tell us why it's a hoax. Tell us why it's a fraud. Tell us where the lies are, because this story is perfectly coherent, it makes sense, and it's been totally uncontradicted and unrefuted. All that we're seeing on the other side, Chris, is a bunch of conspiracy theories. It's really scary because they're conspiracy theories that gel completely with all of the propaganda and disinformation coming out of Moscow from Vladimir Putin.
Well, look, and I keep telling people, you ain't seen nothing yet, because when there's a trial in the Senate, and that seems, all but a foregone conclusion now, the Republicans are in control. They're going to control what comes in, and it could be a very different set of circumstances that are put out there. Congressman Jamie Raskin, thank you for keeping us in the loop. I appreciate it.
And thanks for having me, Chris.
Always.